If it feels like your ex-wife took your confidence and ripped it out through your soul in your divorce, this video is for you. I'm going to give you 6 tips to get your confidence back after your divorce. The first tip is to research and question your self-doubting thoughts. So if you're like most of us, those self-doubting thoughts go something like this, like, I'm not smart enough, I'm not funny enough, I'm not sexy enough, I'm not handsome or strong enough, right? There's something just wrong with me. I'm not rich enough. I think that's a really popular one, especially for men. So your job is to research these thoughts inside your own brain and to start questioning them, because brains are funky, you guys, and they do weird stuff. Like, they have real definitions for this. When you say, I don't make enough money, ask your brain, well, how much money would I need to make to be good enough, to be attractive to women, right? How rich would I have to be? Your brain has a number. It's going to be like, oh, you need to be making $100,000 a year, right? Your brain has numbers for this stuff. You've got to find out what they are. The same is true about looks, about humor. Okay, well, what is handsome? Who's handsome enough? Your brain's going to be like, oh, well, Brad Pitt and Jason Statham, they're handsome enough. Okay, go get pictures of these guys. Take a look at them. What is it that makes them handsome exactly? And is it true, like, only those 2 guys in the whole world are good enough for like women to want to date them? Go out there and find evidence that does not support what your brain is telling you. Go out there and find pictures of women who are with guys that you don't think are handsome. Go out there and talk to people who don't make a lot of money and are really happy in their relationships. Tip number 2 is to make a list of reasons that you are enough. Make a list of all the amazing things about you. Make a list of the reasons that women would want to date you. Make a list of the reasons that your kids are lucky to have you as a father, that your boss is lucky to have you in your job. Maybe you're proud of all of the inner work you've done and how much you've grown since your divorce. Maybe you've changed the way you're showing up as a father. Maybe you've learned some new skills and now you're really banging in bed. Whatever it is about yourself, in whichever area of your life you're trying to build confidence, whether it's dating or parenting or at work, focus on the things that you already like, that you're bringing to the table, and do not tell me that you can't find any. I know they're there. And I think you know that they're there too. So take a moment and brag. Talk yourself up to yourself. Write out a list. What are all the amazing things that I bring to the table that are awesome about me? Tip number 3 is to stop running away from your feelings. This is the fastest way to boost your confidence, whether that's just for yourself or for dating and having relationships with new women. Because I can tell you something, there is nothing sexier, there is nothing more attractive than a man who is comfortable with his own feelings and with mine. This is actually not just true in romance, you guys. This is across the board in any area of your life, because we are dependent on our human relationships, whether it's at work, with our partners, with our kids. Human relationships are how we navigate the world, how we move through life. And at every turn, those relationships are going to get easier if you're comfortable with your emotions and if you're comfortable with other people's emotions. Learn to get comfortable with emotions, and a whole new world is going to open up both inside you and in relation to other people. Tip number 4 is to assume that everything you have ever said, everything you have ever done, and everything you have ever felt is perfectly reasonable. So if something in your past or something in your current life, something about you is bothering you, you need to become a detective and go in and find out that reason. We spend so much time caught up in self-doubt and in shame because we think that we are wrong. We think there's something wrong with us because we said the wrong thing. We think that there's something broken inside of us because we blew up and yelled and got angry. We think that there is something wrong with us because of actions we took, words that we said, or even things that we feel. I shouldn't feel this way. Right? I shouldn't still love her. I shouldn't doubt myself. I shouldn't be ashamed. I shouldn't be guilty. I shouldn't be sad. I shouldn't be angry, I think, is a favorite of our society, and especially among men. I'm telling you right now, everything you feel is reasonable. Everything you do is reasonable. Everything you think is reasonable. That doesn't mean that all of those things are always in your best interest or serving you. It just means that if we can dig into your brain and understand what's really going on in there, it all makes perfect sense. Let's look at some examples of this. So, for instance, if you have a history of getting mad and blowing up, and you're like, well, it's never okay to yell at my wife, it's never okay to yell at my kids, I shouldn't have been that way, that's why I'm divorced, of course that behavior is bad. Okay, well, let's assume that it's perfectly reasonable. Let's dig into your brain and understand why. That anger exists for a reason. It is not just this like crazy, broken, weird thing that's happening for no reason. You're angry because you're trying to protect yourself or your family, or because you're trying to connect, even if the anger doesn't help you do that. We learn our habits of emotion, our ways of relating to people, our ways of connecting and dealing with stress at a very, very early age. And when your gut reaction is anger, it means that you probably learned at a young age that there's a lot of intimacy and vulnerability that just isn't safe. Right? You had some experiences, you learned throughout the years that it's dangerous to be vulnerable, it's dangerous to be direct and ask for what you want and need because you might not get it, or asking might be seen as a weakness. And that, for a human, can actually be really life-threatening, to be seen as weak by other humans if you think about how we evolved and where our ancestors came from. So let's solve the riddle of your anger. What's behind it? What are you afraid of? What need isn't being met? What are you trying to prevent from happening? Sure, lashing out and yelling at your family and driving them away, probably not the best way to get what you want. But I guarantee you, if we go in and make an effort to understand what's happening in your subconscious mind, that behavior is going to make perfect sense. Okay, so that's tip number 4. I want you just to start assuming you're rational. Your behavior is rational. Your feelings are rational. If they don't seem that way to you, it means you haven't dug deep enough, you haven't explored far enough, and you don't understand them fully enough. Tip number 5 is to define confidence and then practice it. So if you don't know what confidence feels like, how are you going to know when you have it? Right? We've got to define confidence, not intellectually, but physically. Remember, emotions happen in your body. Confidence is a feeling. It's a state of being. It's a way of showing up. It happens in your body, not just in your brain. So we need to define confidence on 3 levels. We need to know what it sounds like. We need to know what it feels like. And we need to know what it looks like. And then you've got to practice all 3 of those things. So let me give you an example. Let's start with what confidence feels like. There's a really simple exercise you can do, which is just to think about a time when you felt really confident. Was there something you were really good at as a kid, or a time when you just knew you could accomplish something? Close your eyes, take a moment, go back to that feeling, and just remember, what did it feel like when you could just conquer the world? You could handle anything. You knew you were going to be successful. You were up to the task. Maybe you had some really great support, an amazing coach, a parent, a girlfriend, a good friend, somebody who had your back and knew you could do it, someone who had faith in you. What did it feel like to be there in that moment and just know, I've got this? Connect with that. Where do you feel it? Is it in your stomach, your chest, your shoulders? Do you feel it in your head? Get really specific. What are the physical sensations of confidence? Once you know what confidence feels like, I want you to think about what it sounds like. What does it sound like inside your own mind? What kinds of things do you say to yourself? Do you say, I've got this? Or yes, you can do this? Right? What are the words that you use in your own mind when you're feeling that feeling of confidence? And finally, what does confidence look like? This is actually in 2 places. First, what does confidence look like in you? Do you stand up a little straighter? Do you square your shoulders? Do you lift your chin and put your chest out? How do you walk? Right? How does confidence look and feel in your body? But also, how does it look in your mind? What are you seeing in your mind's eye when you're confident? Do you have this image of your victory, of kissing that girl, of shaking your boss's hand as you get that raise, of signing that new client, whatever area of your life it is? What mental image comes along with that feeling of confidence and those confident thoughts in your mind? We're putting together a whole picture of confidence. I want you to know what it feels like to walk with confidence, to stand with confidence, to sit with confidence. I want you to know what you think to yourself. I want you to know what you see in your mind's eye. And then practice the heck out of those things. Put yourself there once a day, twice a day. Get into that feeling, feel it in your body, walk the walk, stand that way, see those images, talk to yourself, say the words in your mind, and then put yourself into a situation. Maybe it's something that's happening that day. Maybe it's something with the lawyers if your divorce case isn't finalized. Maybe it's a date you're going on or a difficult conversation you're having with your kids. Take that feeling, take that visual, auditory, kinesthetic experience of confidence, feel it, and then put yourself mentally in that situation and visualize what it would be like to have that conversation, to go on that date, to ask for that raise from that place of confidence. I've saved the hardest tip for last. So tip number 6, practice honesty and vulnerability in all of your relationships. Practice this with your friends, with your family, with your kids, with new love interests, with your ex-wife. Stop playing games. Stop pretending that you're somebody you're not. Stop pretending that you feel things that you don't feel. Look, whether we like it or not, we are all human animals. We have human nervous systems, and we are social creatures. We are social beings. Whether we like it or not, connection builds confidence. We are braver together. So if you truly want to feel confident, you've got to cultivate connection with the people in your life. And the way you do that is through honesty and vulnerability. Acting tough, pretending you're not afraid, acting like you never make mistakes so that your life is perfect, doesn't create connection. So admit your fears. Acknowledge the things that you don't know, even to your children, right? That can be incredibly hard, and it is one of the biggest lessons we can teach them is that we are human and vulnerable too, because it makes it okay for them to be vulnerable human beings. Share your hopes with your friends, with your family, with your coworkers. Ask them about theirs. Ask them how they feel. Ask them what they're afraid of. Reflect back the things that they tell you and let them know that you're hearing, that you're trying to understand and show up with compassion and connect with them. Be honest and be vulnerable. It is the bravest thing you will ever do, and it will connect you to people, to your community, to your family in ways that are incredibly powerful. We're human, we need human connection, so be brave enough to go out and get it, because when you do, it's going to be a massive confidence boost. I know you might be sick of hearing that divorce is a new beginning and that you can get over your ex and things will be better in the future and like life is opening up for you. There's so many opportunities. You might be sick of hearing that optimistic, hopeful kind of chatter, because I know how it can feel, right? When you've been devastated in a relationship, it feels like who you were before has been sucked out of you and you might never get it back. How do you really get over her? How do you actually move on, right? How do you get your confidence back? And what if you never were that confident to start with? What if she was kind of the thing that kept you going? You guys, it's possible. I see people do it all of the time. You can get your confidence back. You can have deep, meaningful, powerful relationships, intimate connections without losing yourself. These 6 tips will help you get there, but you have to commit to doing the work. This doesn't just happen. You have to drive this process. So show up for yourself because you are worth it. And frankly, because the rest of us need you to. That whole thing I said about connection, we all need it. We all need each other. So if you can't show up and build your confidence for yourself, do it for me. Do it for your coworkers. Do it for your family. Do it for your friends. Do it for the people you haven't met yet who need you in their lives. If you found this video helpful, please click the like button, subscribe to this channel, leave me comments. I want to know how I can support you, answer the questions that I can, and help you on this journey, because frankly, helping you helps me and helps the rest of the world too. All right, guys, have a good day. I'll see you this weekend.